The Quran is a source of all knowledge, and this is not a new opinion. Imam al-Ghazali, in his renowned work, The Revival of Religious Sciences, quotes Ibn Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him, saying, "Whoever seeks knowledge of the past and the future should reflect on the Quran." The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, also said, "There will be times of great trials." When asked what could save people during such times, he replied, "The Book of Allah. In it is the news of what came before you and what will come after you." These statements highlight that the Quran contains the foundational knowledge of all times, past, present, and future. Today, as science advances and explores the nature of reality, we find that many of its discoveries echo what the Quran revealed centuries ago. Einstein taught that time is relative. The Quran had already mentioned that a day with Allah can be like 1,000 years, or even 50,000. Science tells us that everything in the universe is in constant motion, orbiting and rotating, something the Quran also clearly states in the 36th chapter. These are just a few of the many signs scattered throughout the Quran, signs that modern science is only beginning to understand. As Allah the Almighty declares, "We will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth." From the depths of the earth to the vastness of space, from laws of physics and chemistry to astronomy, quantum mechanics, and mathematics, the Quran speaks of them all with such profound beauty that it leaves the mind stunned and the heart humbled. Let's begin with the first miracle. Einstein's theory of relativity revolutionized our understanding of time by showing that time is not absolute or fixed for everyone everywhere. Instead, time is relative. It can flow at different rates depending on factors such as speed and gravity. This means that for some people, time may seem to pass faster, while for others, it can slow down. Interestingly, the Quran also contains remarkable insights that hint at the relativity of time. One of the most striking examples is found in Surah Al-Kahf, which narrates the story of a group of young believers who fled persecution under a tyrannical ruler to protect their faith in Allah Almighty. They took refuge in a cave and miraculously fell into a deep sleep. When they finally awoke, they thought they had slept only for a portion of the day, specifically a third or a little less or more. However, the Quran reveals that they actually slept for a long period of time, about 309 lunar years. Despite such a long interval, the youths appeared as fresh and unchanged as when they first slept. For the young people inside the cave, time had almost come to a halt. Their bodies remained suspended in a timeless state. Meanwhile, for the rest of the world outside the cave, time continued its normal course. Generations passed, the city changed, the king who persecuted them died, and societal circumstances transformed. This story captures the idea that time is not absolute but relative. Now you might be wondering, why is time relative? What does that actually mean? Einstein explained that what we think of as space and time are not separate. They are part of a single fabric called space-time. And this fabric isn't fixed. It can bend, stretch, and even expand. In fact, scientists have discovered that space-time is expanding faster than the speed of light. But what makes time tick differently for different people? There are two main factors: speed and gravity. According to Einstein, the faster you move through space, the slower time moves for you relative to someone who's standing still. This strange but real effect is known as time dilation. Imagine this: one person stays on Earth while another travels in a spaceship at nearly the speed of light. When the traveler returns, they find that less time has passed for them than for the person who stayed on Earth. The second factor is gravity, which also affects the flow of time. The stronger the gravitational field, the slower time moves. This is called gravitational time dilation. Take Earth, for example. Time actually moves slightly slower at sea level, where gravity is stronger, than on a mountain. Satellites orbiting Earth experience time a little faster than we do on the ground, and engineers have to correct for this in systems like GPS, or they'd become inaccurate very quickly. One of the most dramatic visualizations of this concept was in the movie Interstellar. In the film, astronauts spend just 1 hour on a planet near a massive black hole. But when they return, 7 years have passed for someone waiting farther away. Einstein's big insight was that massive objects or extreme speed distort the space-time fabric, and this distortion changes how time flows. That's why time is relative. In Surah Al-Ma'arij, Allah says, "The angels and the Spirit ascend to him in a day, the measure of which is 50,000 years." This verse is extraordinary. It clearly states that for the angels, the journey to ascend to Allah, a journey that takes them one day, is equivalent to 50,000 years from our human perspective. This is a perfect example of time dilation. The reason this happens, as science explains, is due to the speed at which the angels are traveling. When you move at speeds approaching the speed of light, time slows down drastically for you compared to someone who remains stationary. In fact, if we apply the Lorentz time dilation equation, the very equation used in Einstein's special relativity, and use the Quranic ratio of 1 day to 50,000 years, the result we get is that the angels are traveling at or near the speed of light. So from this single verse, we can extract 3 major scientific insights. Time is relative. It flows differently for different observers. Angels travel at immense speeds, nearly at the speed of light. The concept of wormholes or portals. These are possible shortcuts through space-time, allowing for the traversal of vast distances in very short time frames. The verse doesn't mention wormholes, explicitly of course, but the idea is strongly hinted at in how it describes the movement of angels and spiritual beings across the vast realms of the universe. According to physics, a wormhole is a theoretical bridge or tunnel in the fabric of space-time that connects 2 distant points in space and time. Instead of traveling for thousands of light years, one could theoretically pass through a wormhole and arrive instantly at a faraway place. This concept matches well with the way the Quran describes angels traveling between the heavens. In another verse, Allah says, "He directs the affair from the heavens to the earth. Then it will ascend to him in a day, the measure of which is 1,000 years of what you count." Again, this verse shows the relativity of time, that a single day for Allah or for those in the higher dimensions of the heavens is equivalent to 1,000 years by human reckoning. This reinforces the idea that time behaves very differently in different realms or dimensions. Perhaps the most profound example of time relativity and interdimensional travel is found in the Hadith of Isra and Miraj, the night journey and ascension of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. In a single night, the Prophet was taken from Mecca to Jerusalem and then ascended through the heavens, meeting prophets, witnessing the wonders of the universe, and returning before dawn. From the earthly perspective, this journey happened in just a few hours. But the places the Prophet visited, the multiple heavens, the Sidrat al-Muntaha, Lotus tree of the furthest boundary, and his closeness to the divine presence, are unimaginably far. Even angels, as the Quran states, take a day to travel distances that equal 50,000 years of human time. Yet the prophet's journey went far beyond even that, in less time than a night. How? The only explanation that harmonizes both the scientific and metaphysical aspects is the use of portals, dimensional gates, or wormholes, openings in space-time that allowed him to bypass the normal flow of time and space. This is truly amazing. Honestly, I could spend an entire hour just exploring this one miracle, the relativity of time in the Quran, and how perfectly it aligns with modern physics. But there are other incredible miracles waiting to be discussed. So let's move on to the next one. The study of light, its nature, behavior, and properties, falls under the branch of physics known as optics. From the way it travels to how it's used in instruments like telescopes and microscopes, light remains one of the most fascinating aspects of the physical universe. In the Arabic language, the word for light is ad-du. Interestingly, the Quran makes a precise distinction between different types of light, especially when describing the sun and the moon. This distinction is found in Surah Yunus. It is He who made the sun a shining glory, diya, and the moon a light, nur. Here, Allah uses two different Arabic words to describe the light of the sun and the light of the moon. Diya is used for the sun. Nur is used for the moon. At first glance, both words may appear to mean light, but classical scholars and modern researchers alike have noted a crucial distinction. The word diya comes from the root which implies brilliance, intense radiance, or burning light, like that produced by a fire or something that generates light from within. In contrast, nur is more passive. It refers to soft light, glow, or reflected illumination. So, according to the Quran, the sun's light is diya because it is self-luminous. It generates its own light through nuclear fusion, converting hydrogen into helium at extremely high temperatures. The moon's light is nur because it does not produce light of its own. It merely reflects the sunlight that falls on its surface. This linguistic distinction, made in the Quran over 1400 years ago, corresponds exactly with what science discovered much later. The sun emits its own light, while the moon only reflects it. The famous French physician and scholar Dr. Maurice Bucaille, in his landmark book, The Bible, the Quran, and Science, talks about the use of the words diya and nur. He said, "The sun is a shining glory, diya, and the moon a light, nur." This translation appears more correct than others where the two terms are inverted. In fact, while the difference may seem small, the roots of the words reveal otherwise. According to Kazimierski's Arabic-French dictionary, diya implies a shining light like that comes from a fire, meaning it is light emitted, while nur simply means light, often understood as light received or reflected. In Surah Nur, the Quran says, "And made the moon a light, nur in their midst, and made the sun a lamp, siraj." This verse again makes a deliberate distinction between the moon's light, which is called nur, and the sun, which is described as siraj, meaning a lamp. So, what does siraj mean? The word siraj in Arabic refers to something that produces light and heat, a burning lamp, a lantern, a candlestick, or a torch. The implication here is clear. The sun is not just a source of visible light, but also of intense heat, a blazing furnace in the sky. It is not a passive reflector, but an active generator of energy. In classical times, many ancient civilizations worshiped the sun, viewing it as a divine being. However, the Quran rejected this belief by emphasizing that the sun is not a god, but a creation of Allah, designed to serve humanity.
In Surah Alaq, Allah the Almighty says, "Does he not know that Allah sees all? No, indeed. If he does not desist, we shall drag him by the forelock, a lying, sinful forelock." A lying, sinful forelock refers to the prefrontal cortex of the brain. The prefrontal cortex is located in the front part of the brain, behind the forehead, and it plays a crucial role in guiding behavior based on reasoning, foresight, and understanding the consequences of actions. When a person makes a bad decision, like choosing to lie or commit a sinful act, the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that is actively engaged in that decision-making process. From a biological perspective, when someone continuously lies or engages in sinful behavior, the neural circuits involved in moral judgment and impulse control can become desensitized or less effective. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections, means that the more a person lies, the more these pathways can become strengthened, making it easier for the individual to lie again. Over time, the prefrontal cortex may begin to process these decisions with less ethical reflection, leading to a deeper pattern of immoral decision-making. The sinful forelock is not just a passive trait, it refers to the active engagement of the prefrontal cortex in making decisions that are wrong. The prefrontal cortex allows for higher reasoning, but when it leads a person to sin, it becomes the sinful forelock. In this state, the prefrontal cortex is not functioning in alignment with moral values, but instead is being used to justify immoral behavior, like lying. So, the Quran told us about 1400 years ago that it is the prefrontal cortex that helps us make decisions, and when it is consistently involved in wrongdoing, it becomes a lying, sinful forelock. In Surah Al-Qiyamah, Allah the Almighty says, "Do people think we cannot reassemble their bones? Yes, indeed. We are most capable of restoring even their very fingertips." When a minor cut occurs on the fingertip, the body initiates a healing process that allows the skin to recover and the wound to close. For most minor cuts on the fingertips, the body is able to fully restore the damaged area without leaving any permanent scarring. This includes the regeneration of the fingerprint, which is unique to each individual. The fingertip is covered with sensitive skin that contains unique ridge patterns, our fingerprints. These fingerprints are formed early in life and are a key feature of human identity. When a minor cut happens, the body's cells work together to heal the skin. If the injury is not deep enough to disrupt the underlying structures, the skin naturally regenerates in the same way it was before the injury, including the restoration of the fingerprint. The ability to regenerate the exact fingerprint pattern after a minor injury is a testament to the precision and complexity of the body's healing process. DNA plays a crucial role in this regeneration. Each cell in the body contains DNA, which contains the instructions needed to regenerate tissue, including the skin. When the body heals, the cells use these instructions to restore the skin to its original form, including the unique ridges of the fingerprints. In essence, after a minor cut, the body is capable of restoring the fingertip completely, including the intricate fingerprint pattern, because the regenerative process is guided by the body's genetic blueprint. In verse 66 of Surah An-Nahl, Allah the Almighty says, "Surely there is a lesson for you in the cattle. We provide you to drink out of that which is in their bellies between the feces and the blood, pure milk, a palatable drink for those who take it." This verse describes a natural process involving the production of milk in cattle, which reflects intricate biological systems. Let's break down this verse. The verse states that drink is provided from that which is in their bellies. It further narrows down the location of the material from which milk is produced, indicating it is between the feces and the blood. But the question is, what is that substance from which milk is produced? Let's talk science now about this verse. To begin with, milk is an end product that relies heavily on what happens within the digestive system of the animal, which is located in the belly. Cattle, being ruminants, have a highly specialized digestive system. Their stomachs are divided into 4 compartments: the rumen, reticulum, omasum, and abomasum. When a cow eats grass or fodder, it's not immediately digested. Instead, it undergoes a process of fermentation in the rumen, where millions of microbes break down the tough plant fibers into simpler substances like volatile fatty acids. As digestion progresses, 2 distinct processes occur. One stream leads to waste formation, resulting in feces that are eventually excreted. Simultaneously, the useful nutrients from the food are absorbed through the walls of the intestines into the bloodstream. The Quran refers to this intermediate state, the thing between feces and blood, as the refined, nutrient-rich material absorbed into the blood. Once these nutrients are in the blood, they are carried to the mammary glands. These glands act as remarkable biological factories. They extract specific substances from the blood, such as amino acids, fatty acids, sugars, and minerals, and use them to synthesize milk. What is particularly intriguing is the way the Quran emphasizes the contrast between the origins of milk and its final form. It describes milk as coming from between feces and blood, which, in light of modern biology, is an extraordinary description. This process underscores the miraculous nature of milk production. From the same belly that processes feces and circulates blood, emerges a substance as pure and nourishing as milk. It is a drink that is not only free of impurities, but also palatable and perfectly suited for human consumption. In Surah Luqman, Allah the Almighty says, "And we send down rain from the sky, causing every type of fine plant to grow on earth." In Surah Al-An'am, he says, "Surely, Allah is the one who splits the grain and the date stone for sprouting." These 2 verses from the Quran describe the vital role that water plays in the growth of plants, specifically focusing on germination and the splitting of seeds. When water is sent down from the sky as rain, it is absorbed by the soil, which then nourishes seeds buried in the ground. This rain is crucial for the germination process. When a seed absorbs water, it swells, and the outer seed coat softens. This allows the inner part of the seed, the embryo, to begin growing. The water triggers chemical reactions in the seed, activating enzymes that break down stored nutrients, like starch, into simpler sugars. These sugars provide the energy needed for the seedling to start growing. The verse about the splitting of the grain and date stone refers to this very process. For grains like wheat, barley, or even the date palm seed, the water causes the tough outer shell of the seed to split open. This is necessary for the plant to emerge. As the seed splits, the roots begin to grow down into the soil to anchor the plant, while the shoot pushes upwards toward the surface to access sunlight. This is the beginning of a new plant's life. The Quranic verses capture a precise and fascinating biological process.
In Surah An-Najm, Allah the Almighty says, "And He created the pairs, males and females, from a sperm drop when it is emitted." This verse highlights the process of human reproduction. particularly focusing on how the sperm determines whether the child will be male or female. Human reproduction begins when sperm, released by the male, fertilizes an egg from the female. The sperm contains genetic material in the form of chromosomes, which are structures made of DNA that carry the genes that determine an individual's traits. The human body has 23 pairs of chromosomes, for a total of 46 chromosomes in each cell, except for the egg and sperm, which contain only 23 single chromosomes each. Among these chromosomes, there is one pair that determines the biological sex of the child, the X and Y chromosomes. The female reproductive system contains eggs, each carrying an X chromosome. The male reproductive system produces sperm, which can carry either an X chromosome or a Y chromosome. When sperm meets the egg during fertilization, the combination of their chromosomes will determine the biological sex of the child. If the sperm that fertilizes the egg carries an X chromosome, the resulting embryo will have two X chromosomes, and the child will be female. If the sperm carries a Y chromosome, the resulting embryo will have one X and one Y chromosome, and the child will be male. In essence, the sperm is the determining factor in whether the offspring will be male or female, because the egg always contributes an X chromosome. In Surah Tariq, Allah the Almighty says, "Now let man but think from what he is created. He is created of spouting water stemming from between the backbone and the rib cage." These Quranic verses mention the creation of man from spouting water that stems from between the backbone and the rib cage. The term spouting water refers to seminal fluid, which is crucial in human reproduction. Seminal fluid is produced by the male reproductive system and contains sperm cells. During ejaculation, this fluid is released with force, spouting, a characteristic necessary for its role in fertilization. The phrase "between the backbone and the rib cage" is a fascinating description when examined scientifically. This area corresponds to the torso, where critical systems involved in reproduction and other vital functions are located. When we consider the production and release of seminal fluid, its origin can be traced to structures that are connected to this anatomical region. Although sperm cells are produced in the testes themselves receive their blood supply, nerve connections, and lymphatic drainage from vessels that emerge from the area around the lower spine, close to the backbone. These vessels extend from the abdominal aorta and the renal veins, which are situated near the vertebrae in the torso. The backbone provides structural protection for the spinal cord. Nerves originating from the lumbar and sacral regions of the spinal cord regulate the muscles involved in this process. Without the precise coordination of these spinal nerves, the reproductive system could not function as effectively. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah the Almighty says, "Those among you who pass away and leave wives behind, their wives keep themselves waiting for 4 months and 10 days. So when they have reached the end of their waiting period, there is no sin on you in what they do for themselves in a recognized manner. Allah is all aware of what you do." The Quranic instruction for a widow to observe a waiting period of 4 months and 10 days after the death of her husband is deeply rooted in biological principles, particularly in relation to confirming whether a woman is pregnant. Biologically, the purpose of this waiting period is to allow enough time to determine if a woman is carrying a child from her late husband. After conception, a woman may not show immediate physical signs of pregnancy. Early signs, such as missed menstrual periods or other indicators, can take a few weeks to become noticeable. The Quranic period of 4 months and 10 days provides ample time to naturally confirm whether a pregnancy exists. By this time, any potential pregnancy would generally be recognizable, either through physical signs such as a growing abdomen or through other changes in the body. The waiting period is thus a natural biological measure that helps to ensure the accurate determination of any pregnancy. The waiting period also accounts for the fact that stress, such as grief from the loss of a spouse, can affect a woman's hormonal balance, potentially disrupting her menstrual cycle. By providing this waiting time, the Quran ensures that any irregularities due to stress do not cloud the biological process of determining pregnancy. This time allows for the body to naturally stabilize and for the widow to make an informed decision about her future. That's all for this video. If this video receives a good response, I'll work on a second part soon.